Hello, my name's Catherine Pearson, and this is my presentation on bringing inquiry into the classroom. I'm going to explore what inquiry is and why it's important to support inquiry in free play, outdoor spaces, and routines, as well as how to plan for it, the materials and classroom setup, and engaging families in inquiry. And the information is reflective on my own classroom and teaching experiences. So, what is inquiry in early childhood settings? Inquiry is the process in which children observe, question, explore, experiment, and form ideas and explanations based on their experiences. It really stems from children's natural curiosity about the world and their environment and really relies on teachers carefully observing what they're interested in. The cycle of inquiry is a tool that really supports teachers in carefully observing what their students are doing and planning curriculum that really emerges from their curiosity questions and their discoveries. It's a really active approach. It really emphasizes the role of the child in the learning process. Rather than telling children what they need to know, it really encourages them to investigate and form their own conclusions. Um, it requires the adults to ask a lot of open-ended questions, so making them kind of answer their own questions as opposed to just telling them directly the answer. It involves the adults being kind of co explorers and researchers and involves them modeling the questions and verbally reflecting with them on what they're finding. When teachers really first question what students are interested in and model the curiosity and give them time to think, they then can move on into investigating, which involves really exploring their questions further, whether it's looking at worms and exploring worms further, or reading books about them, really just diving into what the children are interested in and allowing them to research on their own. Inquiry then moves into sharing knowledge, and it encourages children to share their findings with their classmates, doing a lot of model representation, so drawing what they see, practicing communicating those ideas are really important. And then finally, the reflection piece is really important in inquiry and has children thinking about what they learned, what else they want to know, and really gives kids the chance to process their thoughts. And it's really important and it matters in regards to cognitive growth. It supports reasoning and problem solving skills, language development. When adults model, new rich vocabulary that helps them develop new language, social skills, especially when children are actively exploring new things together and communicating those ideas are really important. And finally, executive functioning skills. So during free play opportunities, I will really carefully observe children's interests and use what I see to kind of guide my planning. I will provide students with lots of hands on open ended materials that encourage them to explore, investigate, and just engage further in what we're learning about. And also, of course, making sure they're developmentally and culturally responsive. I also want to just encourage students to be curious and ask questions and explore their own ideas and theories about things, how things work, especially in centers. We have dramatic play centers, science centers, music centers, drawing centers, a writing lab. And all of these different centers, children are able to, make a decision on what they want to play with for 45 minutes. And specifically in the science and engineering centers, we really provide a lot of different hands-on practice for students to maybe make ramps with blocks and roll different size balls down, maybe mixing playing with kinetic sand or building different structures and sorting different objects. As the teacher, the first step is really to notice that inquiry is already happening when children are engaged in free play. And instead of really like directing kids to do specific things, really letting them take the lead. Some questions that I would ask during free play are, what do you think would happen if you add another block to the top of the tower? Or we have a water table outside during recess time that's available. And I would ask questions like, what do you notice about which objects sink and which items float? And kind of go from their own observations. Really just supporting inquiry in outdoor spaces. I would just encourage the children to investigate and explore. At my school, it's the playground, and we have this big climbing structure called the orb. Also observe living things that are in our gardens and investigate the environment. really extend children's learning by observing, commenting on their actions, and again, just asking more open ended questions, always leading with the child's interest and curiosity first. Encouraging students to use their five senses, prior knowledge, and problem solving skills to um, explain and represent their ideas rather than providing direct answers, just giving them the time, the open ended time to explore. Um, Play provides so many opportunities for children to learn science. It allows them to examine real organisms, so worms, insects, plants, as well as the picture I have is about the teeter totter. So working with things like force and motion. Also, being outdoor allows us to talk about the weather, temperature, things like that. So, in outdoor spaces, supporting inquiry, just my role is to really help children move from noticing and wondering to really investigating and being hands on and then reflecting. So, the process really starts with that careful observation of what are kids interested in. Maybe it's digging in the dirt or collecting leaves, looking at their shadows, climbing on the orb, spending some time reflecting on what they're doing and what are they trying to figure out. And then as the teacher, developing hands-on lesson plans that really allow them to experiment with that further. So again, the teacher is really the co-researcher. If students are fascinated in, bugs in the dirt, maybe providing magnifying glasses and nonfiction books about the types of bugs that are in our soil can really enhance their learning. Routines are everyday experiences that repeat. So it makes them really ideal times for noticing patterns in how children are, operating and exploring their environment. So really using those moments to ask children to, predict what might happen next, explain their thinking, describe what they're noticing. Um, we do a sign in question every day. So asking them, what do you notice about how many classmates chose yes on the sign in sheet? The one on the screen is about putting your name tag by your favorite color, as that was just one of the beginning stages of us exploring different colors in that lesson. Um, Going back to just how it's predictable, so we can observe different patterns in how children solve problems, like when they sign in, when they eat snack, cleaning up. um, we can ask questions such as, which apple slices are bigger during snack, or how are these two apples the same, how are they different, or if you have, some ice still in your water bottle, why is the ice melting? So supporting inquiry, it can happen at any time, not just in lessons or inside the classroom. Planning for inquiry, it's not, like I said, it's not a single lesson. It really happens across the day. And it starts with careful observation, followed by providing intentional open ended materials, and then designing curriculum based on interest. So the materials really should be hands on, connected to what children are interested in, and should be able to be explored from multiple perspectives. So it should be accessible, culturally responsive, and relevant to all the students, and just be while observing students, it's important to just keep note of what materials they're drawn to, what questions are they asking, and just reflecting on are their interests being incorporated into their daily routines. In science centers, really using open-ended materials, paper clips, where students can kind of draw their observations, tools used for measuring and comparing. Also, planning for inquiry in small groups versus whole group. Small groups is really when inquiry can become more focused. So during small groups, I really plan to revisit what I've observed the children being interested in, and maybe diving in and asking them deeper questions, um, having them compare their ideas with other students who are in that small group, getting them to practice their communication skills and taking turns in just sharing their reflections. It's really important to have students who do visual representation, so maybe sharing their drawings is really great during small groups. And then again, the transitions and the routines inquiry also happens during those everyday moments. So just making sure to using time like snack and outdoor play and cleanup time to ask open-ended questions, to engage further in that inquiry process. Each day, I'm going to strive to set out new open-ended materials, make sure that the students have enough uninterrupted time to explore the materials, making sure the centers stay out for, at least a week or two before rotating them out, and then, gradually adding more tools as needed and as their exploration becomes maybe more focused on certain concepts. And also really, documenting what the children are learning and what they're interested in, so that can really just be built upon. In my classroom, we have different like focused areas of science inquiry based centers. So we have like an investigation center, which is like ramps and cars and balance scales and things like that. And we'll choose maybe one of those things to have out for the week. Sensory play, we have a water table that's outside that has like some sponges and a colander and buckets, like a little wheel thing that spins. Also, we have a garden with different rakes and digging materials where the kids get to, use little watering cans to water the plants. Um, we have a nature exploration bin that has like little fake bugs and magnifying glasses and some small little nonfiction early reader books, weather charts, animal cycle posters, things like that. So in my classroom, when I'm the lead teacher and I have more choice over what goes in, these are definitely the things that stood out to me in my current classroom where I assist in. And then engineering materials, I love. This was my favorite as a kid, so I always want to make sure kids have lots of things to build with. Recycled items, tape, those were my favorites. Lots of drawing tools as well. Um, this is a picture of one of our daily schedules as well as one of our shelves, and it's important that they're just open and at a child's height with clearly labeled bins. Our bin can, I think we could maybe organize this up a little bit better, but the students can easily find what they want, and our schedule is nice and big and right on the whiteboard, and students can easily see what we're doing each day. Engaging with families, these are just some things I would keep in mind and would want to tell them that inquiry happens in everyday moments. Provide your children with really a lot of hands-on experiences and let them help with, prepping food within reason, helping with gardening things, or even observing the weather together. Explaining the importance of the home to school connection and how what we learn in school really it's so important for it to be enhanced at home, so for students to have that consistency across their learning settings, teaching families like what open-ended questions are and to encourage them to ask them as opposed to just providing answers, and really explaining that inquiry is about wondering and exploring together, not about correct answers. I would really want to share this information at the beginning of the year. We do like beginning of school year phone calls. We do a weekly newsletter with information. Not always do we talk about specific, science related centers, but I think, definitely giving families some information on how to, you know, um, enhance scientific inquiry at home would be really valuable. We have back to school night in the beginning of the school year, and then two parent teacher conferences a year where we would really emphasize that inquiry happens through play and it helps build language and problem solving skills. It supports literacy and math development and helps kids really prepare to think critically. I would assure families that they don't need to know science. They really just need to be, open to exploring together and really being a co-researcher, with their kid. Um, some strategies I would tell families are to, prompt their children by asking, what do you notice? What do you note? What do you wonder? What might change if, this happens or that happens? And then it really supports language development, collaboration, and problem solving skills. This is my AI statement, my references. Thank you very much.